Let me say first how very glad I am that I was able to make it to this event. I had promised Emem that I would be here long ago, and frankly I forgot that I had made that promise. But I was reminded by a friend of mine that I had made this promise to Emem, and I thought to myself, you know, anyone who knows Emem, she's a very gentle person, but you know, she can be very insistent. So I thought my life may not be worth very much if I didn't make it here today. And so I'm here, but I'm very pleased to be here. As Pastor Ituah said, I have the very special privilege of serving on the board of Heritage Homes as a member of the board of trustees. So from the inception of Heritage Homes, which is the mother of the Advocacy group, I had always somehow been associated with the whole issue of adoption. And I think the very excellent work that has been done by Pastor Ituah, by Emem and Co is so evidently what we are experiencing today and what we are able to benefit from today. I don't think there are more events that can be more substantial than one where we're trying to do something about how we can legally and properly bring children into the love and care of parents who want to give them that love and care. I don't think there can be anything much more substantial than that, and that's why I think for all of us who are here, it is a very special thing indeed that you and I are able to participate even in the discussions about this. I think our duty, you know, as governments, as activists, you know, as concerned persons, really should be how to make this process easier, how to make it easier. You've heard all the stories, we've heard from Emem, we heard from Osinbajo, we heard, you know, from others about just how difficult that process is and how insensitive most people are to the whole idea of adoption. And that insensitivity also, in some senses, influences even the processes. Because when it takes 7 years to go through a legal process of adoption, then clearly it's evident that those who are involved in the process are just not sensitive at all to the issues that concern the parents who want to adopt these children. So I think the first order of business for us is to sensitize and educate those around us. And should be our business in churches, our business practically everywhere, to let everyone understand what this whole thing is about and why it is so important. I've been practically all around Nigeria. You know, there's no single state I've not been. I've been to several local governments. And one of the things we find is just a sheer number of little children that are just wandering all over the place. Just so many, anywhere you go. And it's just so heartrending because you just find little children just all over the place. And you know, people say, oh, in the hinterland, people are more loving, you know, and all of those, the way we romanticize villages and the hinterland and all that. But that's not so. Even in the hinterland, there are so many children who are just all over the place, who are not cared for by anyone, who are sleeping rough somewhere. So sometimes it's a paradox when you then consider, and you know, that how is it that it's so difficult to find children to adopt when there are so many children all over the place that are not being taken care of at all. So I think there's a need for us to find, you know, where that convergence lies. Because clearly there are so many little children in need of the love and care of parents who want to care for them and who can actually care for them. But I think the second thing really is to really look at how to simplify the processes. How do we simplify these processes? And part of our engagement is, if you look at the way human rights organizations go after human rights issues, and they are everywhere. If you look at how, you know, many of the activists that we find in our midst I think that one of the, what is missing for adoption is that we need to have men and women who are also, who are also as committed as, and not just committed, but who are also as vehement sometimes in their advocacy and in the way that they go about it. I think that is missing because we don't often find that there are persons who are involved in the work of adoption, who are lobbying the legislatures, who are talking to the houses of assembly, who are making this an item time and time again. We don't have enough of such people, and I think we need that critical mass to be able to make a difference. We must have more people who are, and look at the number of us who are here, who are so obviously interested enough to spend the whole evening. But I think that we need to be more, we certainly need to advocate more, we need to be more committed to the cause, and we need to simply speak up more and do more for this. I was looking, the other day, in fact, there was somebody who has sent me a message about, a number of those who, a number of very famous people who are adopted. I found it quite fascinating, that Nelson Mandela was an adopted child, Bill Clinton, an adopted child. I couldn't believe the sheer number, of those who are, in fact, Gerald Ford, also the American president, also an adopted child, Malcolm X, and so many of them. And it just struck me that clearly this is really and truly in God's plan. And He just wants to demonstrate to us time and time again that however you come about a child, or however you come about children, is certainly in His plan. Whether it is by natural birth, or it is by grace, which is by adoption, it is in His plan. However you come about a child, is really is in God's plan. It's certainly He is the one who has brought it about. And when you hear the incredible story of Ituah and Ituah about how their own children are so, how they look like them, it just tells you that clearly there is something divine about the adoption, something divine about it. I think that ultimately, God always has a way of showing us in patterns and all of that what His real desire is. And when you look at the Christian faith and the way it is that we who are saved are children by adoption, it's very clear that that is how God would have us look at it. If He could actually die, Christ would actually die for us, accept all of our sins, just so that we can be adopted children. I don't think there's any doubt at all that is how God would want us to look at the issue of adoption. So there's a difference. I saw someone, there was somebody who wrote something about children by birth or children by grace. And it really was quite interesting that, children by grace, of course, refers to children who are adopted. Because you and I are adopted, so they are not called adoption, they are called children by grace. And what is grace? The unmerited favor of God. The unmerited, completely unmerited favor of God. And the greatest act of love, the greatest act of love is grace. The greatest act of love is grace, because it is regardless of who we are, how we've been, or what we've done. And I think that is so telling, when we look at what adoption is and how we should see it, and the way in which we must really talk about it and persuade others about it. Lastly, let me just say that sometimes when you look at how, a whole nation, how a country develops, and the way in which it develops, and you look at countries of the world where processes such as adoption are so easy, where people actually where it is taken seriously, you find that after a while there are just no children to adopt, or very few children to adopt, or people go elsewhere to adopt. But all of those countries are usually much, much better than countries where adoption isn't taken so seriously. And that is so for developed countries and undeveloped countries. If you look at all the countries that do so well, countries that have a good development index and all that, you'll find that there are also countries where adoption is taken seriously. And really it's all about whether a society cares enough, And I think it's time for us to let our own society, this Nigerian society, be one that cares. And really, it's up to all of us who are here to work at it, to ensure that between now and another conference, we have several thousand more persons that were persuaded about what adoption is and why adoption is so important. And to bring in so many other people, and also persuade those of us in government about what exactly to do to make it easier. So I'd like to thank you all very, very much for coming here today and for your time at the time you devote to this work, and especially to Emem and all of the members of our team, and especially Mrs. George and all of those who work in this particular field, that this is really God's work. You are truly God's representatives here on earth doing the work that is closest to His heart. And I'm sure that God Almighty will reward you for all your labor of love. God bless you. Thank you very much.